Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's installment of the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor. I'm your host, as always, Alex Taylor. And man, we got a lot to unpack this episode. What a week, first of all. But we're going to talk a little bit about Alabama LSU, or we're going to be talking about the offense, Jalen Milroe. We're going to be talking about the rise of the defense, some things I addressed in the LSU preview show, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the CFP race as well. Really starting to heat up, really starting to kind of take shape as we enter these final weeks right before conference championship week. But just want to take this time to let you know that the Bama Factor is a proud member of the College Huddle. The College Huddle is the largest fan-led podcasting site that there is in the college game. Over 70 schools are represented through the College Huddle from every Power 4 conference, some Group of Fives as well. We are the lone Alabama representative. So if you want to learn more about the College Huddle, you can go to www.thecollegehuddle.com and you can check out all of the members there. You can check out my page personally, has all of my links to every one of my social media accounts. It also has articles, also has potential videos, it has YouTube links, and a whole lot more. And if you want to be a part of the College Huddle, if you see a school that is not represented, please feel free to reach out to me, or I can put you in touch with the founders of the College Huddle. But we just want to take this time to let you know we are always a proud member of the College Huddle. So really kind of diving in to last week's game. So first and foremost, Jalen Milroe. And I said on last week's episode, I said, is this his legacy game? Do we get the Jalen Milroe that we got against Georgia? And I kept saying in previous weeks, Jalen wasn't healthy. He looked a step slow. Whatever he was going through, it was evident. It was obvious. And I think a lot of what had to do with it is he was hurt. I think he was hurt. And I think the off week presented an opportunity for him to heal, for him to kind of reset not only the physical side of his game, but also kind of reset the mental side of his game as well. And coming into this game, he didn't have to throw the ball. He didn't have to be necessarily spectacular with his arm. Was he still efficient with his arm? Yes. Did he force throws? No. He took what the defense gave him. And a lot of people can say anything that they want to about the fact that, he didn't throw for a touchdown this game. When they play a team where he's actually got to throw this year, he's not going to succeed. Well, if you go back to Georgia, he carved Georgia's secondary up. And, he's carved several other secondaries up this year too. But I think the game plan for this game was to lean on the ground game. And that's exactly what they did. Really, from the first possession on, you kind of saw what they wanted to establish on offense. And I absolutely loved what they did on offense. I love the fact that, Jalen was very patient as a runner. He took what really the defense was also really giving him in the passing game. And I think overall, Jalen probably played one of the most flawless games he has all season. And I'm including that with Georgia. Seeing what Jalen did the other night was absolutely spectacular. And I don't think you could have scripted a better game for him. Even more rushing yards than he had last year, 4 touchdowns again. You're talking about a guy who the last 2 years has just terrorized LSU with his feet. And that's what Jalen does. If we're being honest, that's what he does best. And the thing is that he was efficient with his arm, and he was patient with his arm. He was patient in the passing game, and he delivered some very good throws as well. But they leaned in on the running game. These design quarterback runs, these design keepers, and these RPOs, he was reading very well all night long. And then you go back into the running game with Jam and Justice. They leaned on those guys. But let's just really talk about, I think some MVPs that kind of get overshadowed. Let's talk about the offensive line. The offensive line was absolutely tremendous. And when you look at kind of the corner they've turned, you know, really establishing this run game the last two games. 271 yards and then over 300 yards this past week. Going forward, this is a good sign for Alabama heading into their last stretch of the season and potentially into the playoffs. If you can establish a dominant run game like Alabama has had in the past, that's what has really made Alabama successful. The way that they have always played. They grind it out. They keep the defenses on the field. I mean, like we had long sustained drives that kept LSU on the field. And that was the key because we wore their defense out. I saw their defense, halfway through the second quarter, huffing and puffing. I mean, gasping for air, sucking wind already. And we just absolutely took the wind out of their sails. And I think the play calling was very consistent Saturday. It was very consistent in terms of, we went with what worked and we kept going with that. We just kept the foot on the gas. So that's what I enjoyed the most. But Jalen, definitely legacy type of game, one that will be in the minds for Alabama fans forever, and I know will be in the minds of LSU fans forever as well. But now switching to the other side of the ball, let's talk about the defense. Also setting Jalen and the offense up in good spots. Jahad Campbell said that the defense was coming into this game with violent intentions. They were coming into this game with almost a point to prove. You're coming off of a shutout your previous game, and the defense this year has come under some scrutiny. Kane Womack has come under some as well, and people were always wondering, well, was Kane the right guy for the job? Does this 4-2-5 work? Why are these guys not making more plays? Why are we getting beat deep still? And I think this defense, like I said at the beginning of the season, it might take a little bit for these guys to get comfortable in this system. You're taking guys from a 4-3 system and you're putting them into a 4-2-5 system. And two very different defenses. A lot of them have the same base, but, you're talking about, guys that got to learn a whole new system who have been in this whole other system, for 3 or 4 years at a time. And I knew the leaders were going to step up. I knew the guys who were ultra talented were going to step up. But these last 2 weeks, it's like since the Tennessee game, and really, like I keep saying, guys, I know I keep throwing this in here, but even the Tennessee game, they played a good game on defense. Yes, we gave up 24 points, and yes, we kind of gave up 21 of those, all 24 in the second half, but we didn't have an offense that game. Our offense was not complimenting them. Our defense forced 3 turnovers. Our defense was holding Dylan Sampson, to a yard a carry. But the week after that against Missouri, the defense turns a corner by getting a shutout. Then you come in last week, which is your biggest challenge and probably one of the best offenses you'll face, not only the rest of the year, but probably period this year. LSU had a good stable of running backs. Garrett Nussmeier is a guy who can sling the ball down the field. Kyron Lacey, C.J. Daniels, Mason Taylor, the 2 best offensive tackles probably not only in the conference but probably in the country. And an offensive line that had given up less than 10 sacks all year. In Tiger Stadium. And you have a true freshman corner and some other young guys in the secondary. And the Bama defense just shut down LSU from the jump. LSU would get their jump plays here and there, but a wide receiver for LSU, listen to the stat, a wide receiver for LSU did not have a reception until 1:32 to go in the second quarter. That in itself is tremendous, and it is a testament to the Alabama secondary and the defense as a whole. Yeah, obviously we know that Mason Taylor had a couple grabs, in the first quarter and the second, but to limit Kyron Lacey and C.J. Daniels and Aaron Anderson to no catches until 1:32 left in the half, I mean, That's the definition of lockdown corner. Xavier Brown played well. Domani Jackson played well. You need to remember the name Bray Hubbard because he has absolutely played phenomenal these last two games without Keon Sabb. He has stepped up huge for him, and I couldn't be prouder for him. I'm excited to see him going forward. And again, he played the game with violent intentions. Had another interception. The hit he put on Josh Williams was insane. That's just absolutely that's Alabama football in itself. Um, and overall, just the defensive front plugging running lanes. They can never get the run game going. We bullied their offensive line. I said this game was going to be one in the trenches on each side, and the Alabama offensive line won that against the LSU front, and then the Alabama defensive line pretty much bullied the LSU offensive line into submission. And Will Campbell and Emory Jones were nowhere to be found. And Jahad Campbell, what a legacy game for him. What an NFL draft stock game for him. Dude was everywhere. Dude was absolutely everywhere. Forcing turnovers, obviously a huge third down stop on the goal line in the first quarter. You had obviously the forced fumble in the second quarter that led to points right before halftime. Campbell just playing good sideline to sideline all night long. And you can see why he's a semifinalist for, awards like the Lombardi and the Butkus, because he is that type of player. And the fact that he's taking more of a leadership role at this point, even though he doesn't have that C on his jersey, he might as well at this point. Jahad Campbell is a guy who has just absolutely just been insane for us this year, and especially was this past Saturday night as well. And then, also on the front again, Tim Keenan, Tim Smith played very well. James Smith played very well. Jordan Renaud getting some good reps in there. Quay Russaw playing extremely well. Q Robinson, who unfortunately is out for the rest of the season, playing well. And the secondary, like I said, Malachi Moore, Domani Jackson, Bray Hubbard, Devontae Smith, all these guys just playing exceptionally well. And the defense, just the mentality that they have and the mentality that they're going to have going forward. I think they've really turned a corner, and now you're starting to see Kane Womack's system really start to permeate with these guys. And Kane Womack, too, what a beautifully called game. I thought he dialed up pressures appropriately. I thought he did a very good job at kind of staying with what worked and, just really keeping the pressure on LSU and, really not giving them anything. So, again, hats off to the defense. Came in with violent intentions and they did. They absolutely shut down, one of the better offenses that we're going to see this year. So, hats off to the defense. But then I think the last thing you got to look at, I think you got to look at the coaching. I think you got to look at, if you're Kalen DeBoer, you take over for the legend Nick Saban at the beginning of this year. You come in your first game and, you get a 63-0 shutout win. The next week you struggle a little bit, but, you end up pulling away. You go on the road to Wisconsin and you have a convincing win. Then comes your first biggest test against, right now, probably the best coach in college football, Kirby Smart. And you come out in that game and you shine. You show your offensive guru side. Your team's able to grind out a win. And you're on top of the world. So right now, KD's looking really good. But then you hit a little adversity. You lose to Vanderbilt, who you're not supposed to lose to. You squeak it out against South Carolina. You go on the road and have 17 penalties against Tennessee. And you lose. All of a sudden, the fan base is questioning, is this the guy? Is this the guy who is going to uphold the standard? Why is the standard not being upheld? What's the problem? Where's the disconnect? Does he need to scream more? Does he need to get after players more? What's happening? So then you have this moment of you're back against the wall. Even the coach's back's against the wall. And then you come out against Missouri and you get a shutout. But then people, even some of our own fan base, is like, still not impressed. I need to see what you do in 2 weeks. Kalen DeBoer went into Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night, a place where LSU does not lose often. And he didn't just go in and coach a team to a win. He went in and absolutely outcoached Brian Kelly. He went in and they dominated LSU. This wasn't like it was a close game. This wasn't like it was ever in doubt that LSU could come back. It was never like that. Alabama dominated in all 3 phases of the games and coaching the entire game. Heck, they emptied the stadium with 5:05 left in the third quarter. LSU fans don't do that. You know it had to be bad, and they broke the will of LSU in that third quarter. Up 28-6 with 5:05 to go. A lot could have happened. But LSU fans started leaving, took the crowd out of it completely. So I think a lot needs to be said about the coaching moment for Kalen DeBoer at this point in his Alabama career already. It's his best coaching moment, in my opinion. The way he's been able to take this team, having some adversity this year, getting over the penalty woes, getting over the road woes, and then going into LSU and just really doing what you did. Heck of a coaching job by him and the whole staff. So, just extremely hats off to them. Absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to kind of talk about, as we get into the last part of this episode, Alabama in the CFP race. So, Alabama comes in at number 10 this past Tuesday in the CFP poll, in the second CFP poll. And Alabama on the outside kind of looking in right now. You're in that top 12 right now. Georgia drops to number 12 after their loss. You've got Ole Miss that, was kind of making their way up as well after a big win. And it's safe to say there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made here at the end of the season with a lot of potential 2-loss SEC teams that have a case for the playoff. And, you've really got to think, who gets left out, what losses don't look good, what wins look good. And right now I think Alabama sits in a good spot because you have Tennessee who's in your top 6. And Alabama lost on the road by a touchdown. And, you do have the loss to Vanderbilt. That's not great. But then you also have wins over Georgia. You have wins over South Carolina, Missouri, and LSU. So you have 4 top 25 wins right now. So that's really boding well for Alabama. And I think when you look at that, I think Alabama, you finish 10-2, and maybe you don't go to the SEC title, you're in. I think if you're Georgia and you're 10-2 and you don't go to the SEC title, I think you're in. Ole Miss 10-2 and you don't go to the SEC title, I think you're in. Simply because strength of schedule, Alabama has the toughest strength of schedule of any of those teams I just said, and then any of the top 10. So Alabama is really on the outside looking in right now, and there's going to be a lot of other things shake up. Ohio State and Indiana played this weekend. Ohio State's kind of fighting for its right to be in with the 1 loss. Indiana's undefeated. Indiana doesn't have a strength of schedule to really help them out. So this is going to be really interesting this weekend. BYU edging Utah this past week. Could slip up eventually. You've got a couple other teams that could slip in. You've got Oregon that's still got a couple games left. So, and Penn State with the 1 loss, but we're just going to see how this really shakes out. But right now I like where Alabama sits. They said if the playoff were to start today, Alabama will be on the road at Indiana. I'll take that any day. But the CFP race is going to heat up a lot these last couple weeks. But the most important thing for Alabama to do is just win out. All right, 10-2, win out. You got to finish the season strong. But as of right now, Alabama's sitting in a very good spot. So now we're going to jump into our predictions for this weekend. Alabama versus Mercer. Yes, you heard me correctly. So Alabama has played Mercer one other time, and it was in 2017. Alabama won 66-3 in Bryant Denny Stadium in 2017. Actually, a week before playing Auburn that year. I was personally at that game, and I will be at the game this Saturday as well. Kickoff is set for 1 o'clock Central Time on SEC Network Plus. The weird thing is, when you kind of play what they call Cupcake Week, these last few weeks of the season, you expect your cupcake to not have a record really over 500. Mercer not only has a record over 500, they have a 9-1 record. So Mercer is no slouch coming in. This is a game Alabama, especially off of an emotional win over LSU, you need to come out and you need to take very seriously. And I think they're going to. I don't think this is going to be a replay of a Vanderbilt game of where, we came off, sky high win against Georgia and then we come out flat. I don't think that's the case at all. This is a game where Alabama needs to really get off to a fast start. And, our starters, we need to be up enough where our starters can come out hopefully prior to halftime. And because, we want these guys healthy for Oklahoma the next week and sure enough for the Iron Bowl in 2 weeks. We want them as healthy as we can be. And, this is a game where, obviously Mercer, haven't watched them at all this year, but, some of the studies that I've done, I know that they've got, a good quarterback. Their offense has obviously been very good as well. And their defense has been too. And, this is a team that's coming in, they got something to prove too. They get big bad Bama, and these are the games of where you just have to come out and prove. You might be 9-1, you might be leading your conference where you are, but you're still an FCS school. We're an FBS school. Let's be honest here. We're Alabama. You're not. This is where you flex. This is where you basically flex all of your muscle, and you also show the CFP committee, you beat who you're supposed to. So this is where you just really get after it. And especially this Saturday, I think the weather's supposed to be good, just your typical Saturday in November before you go on the road again. Then obviously you come back home. This is also a game of where, even last game in LSU, there were still things we had to clean up. So this is kind of where you can also look and say, what do we need to clean up? What do we need to prepare for the next week against Oklahoma? That's in Oklahoma and and then that game's also at night. What do we have to prepare for there? So I think, this Saturday, I don't see there being a problem, but, we still have to go out there and we still have to play the ball game. We still have to execute as well. We can't just show up. We can't just, come in there and just think that all we have to do is just, pass the ball up and down the field, and then, we can just get a few stops here and there. No, we need to go in still with the mentality to dominate, and I think this team is keeping that, is really keeping that at the front of their minds. So I'm super excited about Saturday. I'm super excited to be back in Bryant Denny Stadium as well, and we will be looking forward to that. And I can't wait to see the guys in action again. I know they'll get a huge standing ovation for the performance last week against LSU. I hope everybody will come out. This is what they call usually the Bama salute game. We had a Veterans Day, this past week, and this is where they, salute all of those who have served. Obviously have given their lives and for the freedom of this country and for our freedom. We here at the Bama Factor, we always appreciate our veterans. I am the grandson of one. I am the nephew of one as well, in the Vietnam and the Korean War. So I have the utmost respect for our veterans and anybody who will lay their life willingly on the line for our freedom and our country. And I think our country owes them, obviously, a debt of gratitude to every veteran who has fought and died, or has also fought and lived as well for our freedom. But really, final prediction for this weekend, I see Alabama 52-10. Don't see this really being a problem. It shouldn't be. And the biggest thing for me is that we get out of there healthy, and we get ready for Oklahoma next week. But guys, thank you so much for joining this evening. Remember to check me out on Instagram, guys. You guys have been so supportive on Instagram. I can't wait to release the stats for the page this year, from impressions to total amounts of likes to accounts we've reached this year. I had goals for this year, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about those goals and how we've already surpassed them. And I can't wait for y'all to see the overall numbers from this year. I appreciate you guys more than you know. Hope you guys have a good college football Saturday. Good night. God bless. Roll Tide.